So, WordPress 5.6 is released. You would like to update to it, of course, all of your sites. But can you? Well, if you have a newer theme or one that is really updated regularly, or plugins, same thing, updated regularly or recent, then there's probably no problem with that. But if you have an older theme or older plugins that are not maintained anymore, are you stuck with the old version of WordPress? Well, that's what we're going to find out in this video, so stay tuned. Hi, if you're like me, probably during the last few days, you started to update your sites to WordPress 5.6 that was released a couple of days ago. Of course, first question is, should we upgrade or not? And many people will tell you to wait until version 5.6.1, which is not a bad idea at all, of course. But even then, at this point, this is more a question of whether WordPress itself is stable or not. But what I want to focus on today is what to do if we have plugins or themes that are not compatible with WordPress 5.6. And most likely, if they are not compatible with WordPress 5.6, they're not compatible with WordPress 5.5 either. So most likely, just like in this case here, you would have used, if you have upgraded, of course, a little plugin called Jquery Migrate. So for example, if you don't know about that, WordPress 5.5, 6, and 7 have different steps to update the Jquery version. Jquery, which is a JavaScript library that comes with WordPress. And since the beginning of WordPress or so, they have used Jquery version 1, in fact 1.12 for the last few years. And of course, version 1 is pretty old. Now we're up to version 3 and more. Let me just check. The latest version is, where is it? Let me just get the version 3.5.1, as you can see. So that's the latest version of jQuery as of today. So version 1 is really dated, but still they have used that one. And what they did in version 5.5 is that they have removed a file called Jquery Migrate. If I can click on that, I think that I can show it to you. There's a Migrate plugin, and that Migrate plugin is simply there to help jQuery. If you are using old code, it will make it compatible with a newer version of jQuery. So in other words, if you use some code that was already deprecated on version 1.12, which is the version that came before, then this Migrate plugin will help you to, well, will help the developer to make it compatible with 1.12. Now, let's be honest, that's been quite a while. And it's never good practice to use a deprecated code. That's what we call deprecated, meaning that we should not use it anymore. But since it's still working, people that know this code, instead of using the new best practice, sometimes, unfortunately, bad programmers are using older code, even if they know that it's deprecated. So that's why jQuery Migrate plugin was there. Now in 5.5, they removed that link to the Migrate plugin, and that created a lot of problem with some plugins and some themes. So that's why they released the Jquery Migrate or enable Jquery Migrate helper that will add back that migration plugin. Then in WordPress 5.6, they simply changed the jQuery version to the latest one, which is 3.5.1. And they kept the Jquery Migrate that goes with version 3, not the one that goes with version 1. So of course, it might still break for some people. And the goal is that in WordPress 5.7, that's scheduled to be released in March 2021, they're supposed to completely remove the migration plugin, the version 3 migration plugin, and just keep jQuery 3.5.1 or a newer version that will most likely be there at that time. Now, with that being said, what do we do if we have a theme or plugins that are not compatible, that breaks when we upgrade to 5.5 or 5.6? So again, if you have older plugins or themes, and if you know that it breaks, a good idea is to install that jQuery Migrate helper and still install WordPress 5.5 that was released last summer. But now with version 5.6, we have the same problem. If we needed that plugin with version 5.5, of course we will still need it with 5.6, and even with 5.7 if ever they don't update that plugin. They said that they would not update it, but they said that for 5.6 as well, and they finally updated it. So we might have that for a few years, but who knows? So good practice is not to say, well, I cannot update it, so I will stay with an older version of WordPress. Good practice says you should update, but of course we need to take some precautions. So I want to show you two examples today. The first one is this website, which has one plugin that is not compatible. And the reason for that is that I'm using an older theme. The theme itself doesn't seem to have any problem, but it's deprecated. The theme is deprecated, so there's no new updates. And like many themes, it included Visual Composer. And that Visual Composer is version 5. The latest version is 6.4 or something like that. So that's an old one that is not compatible with the new standards. Now, by the way, if you have a plugin that you can replace, please do so. If you have a plugin that does, I don't know, a slideshow, for example, and you cannot update it, remove it and replace it with a newer one that can actually be compatible with the latest versions, with the latest standard. Any plugin or theme that is regularly updated. I tend to try to use only plugins and themes that are regularly updated. But if, like in this case, you have an older one, I'm sure 100% that this plugin will never be updated. Yes, the paid one will, but not this one that is part of the theme. In other words, if I want to really upgrade it, I can buy a license for Visual Composer, and then I'll be able to upgrade it to the latest version, and it will be compatible with 5.6 and 7 later. But if not, if I want to keep that free one that comes with my theme, then I'm blocked. And now, if I go to that jQuery Migrate and I go to the login deprecation, it will show you the files that have problems. Unfortunately, I did some tests and I think it created some problems. And as you can see, by the way, I'm on a staging site. Always do a backup first, or do that on a staging site like it's the case right now, to do some testing before. It doesn't show the errors anymore. But still, I remember what was the error, where was the error, so I'm going to show you how to correct that. So if you have a plugin or theme that you can't update and that you can't change for another one, then this is one way of doing things. So the problem was the jQuery load function. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't show it anymore because I did some tests before doing that video, and I cannot get it back to load the error, but I know that the error is there, the deprecated code is there. So if I do some search with jQuery load, it will show you that newer, that's still an old one, it was added in version 1, but this is to load external file, load external HTML and so on. This is not the one we're talking about. As you can see here, prior to jQuery 3, the event handling suite also had a method named load, and that's the one that we're talking about here. This one is deprecated. The other one, as you can see, is not. So if I click on this one, it will tell you what it does. There's two versions of it, the load handler, which is a function, and the load, you specify an event and then an handler. And this one was added in version 1.4.3. But still, this is deprecated. You see, it has been deprecated on version 1.8. So again, like I said previously, in version 1.12, it was already deprecated, but with the migration plugin, some people were still using it when they shouldn't have done that. So what it tells us here is that we should replace it with the on, load, and handler. So you replace load handler by the unload and then the handler itself. So let me point to you where the error code was. So I need to go inside my plugin to be able to edit the plugin. So let me go to the plugin editor right there. And if you don't see that, maybe you're blocked by someone else, a super admin, or if you're just an editor, of course, you don't have access to that. But also, like in my case, I had my iTheme security that was blocking the default editor. So of course you need to disable that option before being able to access that. Of course, if you can access through FTP the files, it's even better. So that way you don't have to change those options. So I needed to go here in my WP Bakery, Visual Composer, need to select that. And the exact file that was creating a problem was inside my assets, my JS, and my, no, sorry, not JS, my library lib folder, waypoints and waypoint.min.js is the file that was creating an error. And to find it, click anywhere in the code, Control F to do a search, command I guess in Mac, and then I'm going to search for the .load, and then I'll put my parenthesis. And by the way, if you still have the error like I used to have before, it will show you jquery.fn.load. This is not what you type. It's just to tell you that it's a function of jQuery, but it's not written like that in the code. So .load and open parentheses, I'm sure that I'm going to be in the right place. I hit enter, and you see that the last item, the last line, is the actual thing here. So I have only one in that particular case. So what I need to do, according to the jQuery documentation, I replace load or .load, open parentheses. I'm going to replace that, in other words, by that. So let's do it. I'm going to use the on, then the load function, and simply a comma like that. I'm going to remove the parenthesis here. And this is exactly what I need to do. Just to be sure, load function, yeah, okay. So that's exactly what I've done. I need to remove that parentheses. I just wanted to make sure that it was not for something else because I was talking at the same time. So, okay. So now I can just save that. And of course, you never work in code without first creating a backup, or like I said, right now I'm in a staging site. So always do a backup first or work on a staging site in case you make something not working and you won't be able to access your site anymore. So in this particular case, that will solve the issue. And if I refresh my site, of course, you will not be able to see it right away because now my log deprecation is empty. But usually you can go there, you can clear your logs just to make sure, and then you can navigate to your site and you will see that nothing else is logged. So that site is ready to be updated. I can just update it to WordPress 5.6. And in this particular case, since I know there was a plugin that was creating problem, I would probably keep the jQuery, just deactivate it because I won't need it anymore. But at least keep the jQuery Migrate Plugin ND for the next release, which is 5.7, just to make sure that, again, if we have any issue, we can always re-enable it. So I'll pause the video while the update still happen, just to save some time. So right, the update is finished. So of course everything is working fine. I could, like I said, deactivate, not necessarily delete, but deactivate my jQuery Migrate helper. I shouldn't have a need for that. Maybe just a little recommendation here. Maybe not deactivate it right away, because of course when you navigate it might log other deprecated elements. So you might want to wait a week or two just to make sure that it grabs everything. But once that is done, you can just deactivate it and wait for 5.7, sorry, to be released. So if I go back here and I see any page, now I might have a little problem with the editor here, and it's not because of that. It's simply because I'm using a translation plugin. So this is a French site in reality. So here we go. Okay, everything seems to be right. So I do have my Visual Composer. It is loading, no problem. I can load that on the front end as well. So even though I changed the function, as you can see, everything is still working perfectly fine. Always takes a little while to load, but here we go. All right, so now I want to show you a different one. This one also has an older theme, but the no old plugin, because there was no plugin with the theme itself. So that's the theme itself that has problems. And as you can see, we have many of them. We have 23 deprecated function. It's always the same. And by the way, in this particular case, as you can see, it's always jQuery fn for function and then .live. And this is deprecated. And as you can see, it's always in the same theme. This is an old site that I've built simply for a little hockey league with friends. So always the same file, always the same place. But there are 23 occurrences of that fn live inside of it. And then again, if you want to know more, you can just type that into the search for the jQuery site, on the jQuery site. And you see it has been removed in jQuery 1.9, so still a long time ago. So now again, we use the on instead. So again, I could come here and go with the appearance, and I'm going to go in the theme editor this time because that's the theme. And I would need to go and search for all of them. So first of all, I forgot to keep that open. So I need to have the path. So theme, okay, time, GS, admin JS. So I need to go there. So no children here. So JS, admin JS. And for any reason, it doesn't load here, by the way. So there's probably already a problem with that, with the jQuery Migrate or something like that. So it might happen to you sometime, and then you will have to either use an FTP plugin or something like that. In this particular case, though, I'm going to use something else. And honestly, I would use it even if that would work, because I had to make 23 modifications here. So I don't want to do them one by one. Instead, I'm going to use a plugin that I discovered during the last Black Friday, so a couple of weeks ago, which is Instant IDE. And that allows me to edit the code directly inside of WordPress. So if you're somebody that can play a little bit with code, this goes really well. So let me just open that. And you can see here I have my hierarchy and everything. So I'm going to go in the same place. So content, theme, okay, time. JS, admin JS, double click on it to open it. And this time, no problem. And what I find good is that I can do a find and replace in this case. So Control F, and as you can see, I can do a find. And if I click on that little arrow here, I can do a find and replace. So all I need to do, based on what is written here, I need to change my live for .on. Of course, there's going to be something between the parentheses, so I won't take any chance. I'm going to replace .live parenthesis, and you see I have 23 instances that it finds, and I'm going to replace it with .on and open parenthesis. So let's replace all. Again, really recommended, of course, to do a backup. In my particular case, I didn't do one simply because that's already a backup. That's already a testing site. That's not the real live one. So everything, now I have no result because everything has been changed. Control S for saving. And now if I come back to my website here, I'm going to go to my log deprecation. I'm going to clear my logs. And if I move somewhere else, there's supposed to, hopefully, it will simply detect that everything has been corrected. So if I, does it still detect something? Time, okay, time.js, admin.js. Plugin install this time is the page. Right, so it might take a while sometime to really update different elements here. If I refresh, now discovered on this page 0, so I guess that this time it's working. Here we go. Now, as you can see, Jquery Migrate is not in orange anymore, smaller, so it doesn't detect anything. If I move from one page to another, as you can see, it stays the same. So it doesn't log any other error. So you might have to, I went back and saved again just to make sure that I had saved, and need to refresh maybe a couple of times, like I said, for that to make sure that it kind of cleared a cache or something like that. I don't know. But as you can see, even if I go to the website here, the page itself, um, nothing logged here. Let's go directly in the log to make sure, and everything's fine. So that should give me the go to be able to update to WordPress 5.6. So let me go to the dashboard here, to the updates. I should be able to see the update. This site is pretty slow. That's on a testing server that I've paid a few pennies, let's say it like that. A couple of $100 for lifetime, unlimited. So surely a little bit slow. As you can see, I have it now, so I'm gonna update it. Gonna pause the video while it does that. And voila, this is the new 5.6. So it has been updated. Still no error. Everything seems to work fine. And I'm gonna just come and deactivate that Jquery Migrate plugin. So deactivate that. And I'm going to have a few pop-ups on that website. I don't like that website, by the way, but anyway. So let's refresh that. And yeah, it's me. I was a goaltender. So everything seems to be working on the site. As you can see, no problem. Still a French site. That's the only problem. Well, there's no coming activities because of COVID, of course. Everything is closed. So all the tables, everything seems to work perfectly fine. So as you can see, now I can simply get rid of that Jquery Migrate helper. Like I said, in this particular case, I'm going to keep it because in few months, not Jquery, but WordPress 5.7 will be released, and I want that to be closed just in case. So hope you found this video helpful. If you have any comments, put them below. If you like the video, put a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It will help me to with your comments and everything to provide with you better videos, hopefully. So have a good day. Thank you.